Welcome into Off Air with Amy. I'm Amy Wood, and we are focused in today on three big topics. We've got a safety expert on the camps after the situation in Texas. She's in Texas, and she has some important warnings for parents. We've also got on the way a family local who's in Syria, an assistant principal from Lyman Elementary School there with her husband and daughter. They're stuck by the violence. We'll get into that. And we've got the best day spa in America is in our area. How cool is that? But first, the hot mic has to open up. I want you to meet Rania Mankarious. She's been paying attention to the story at Camp Mystic and all the other locations and the tragedy that has unfolded in Texas. But she's been looking into camp safety for years. What is happening with camps and safety? We want to put it in the context. We know there are so many terrible funerals happening this week. It is still a very sad and mournful time. But at the same time, I think families across the country are asking questions about what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again to children and to counselors and to communities. So you have been working on this for so long. Tell me what you have discovered.
I have been working on this for nearly a decade. And truth be told, a Houston area mom came to our organization, Crime Stoppers of Houston, and shared with us an incident that took place in the camp, the Texas camp her child had gone to. And in her quest to understand how such a crime could be committed against her own child, she discovered and unraveled a long list of gaps and oversight, quite frankly, when it comes to the safety and protection of our children. And when she originally brought this report to me again a decade ago, I said, it just can't be, because I, like so many others, assume that if this is a place that holds children, these kids sleep there, they eat there, they swim, they do all these different activities, from hunting, in the Texas area, to zip lines and all these different water activities. Certainly, they have the highest standard of care and protection of our children. And what I discovered is that's not necessarily true. And the entities that license camps are often run and governed by a board that is made up of camp owners and camp vendors who maybe knowingly or unknowingly have been catered to what looks like the bottom line, and not necessarily every single change that needs to be made with keeping children safe. So we started focusing on, again, abuses, sexual assaults that take place in camps, and caught the attention of a national entity and did a national story on that. But we didn't stop there. We looked at lifeguard to swimmer ratio, how permits are given. Are all camps accredited? And they don't all have to be.
Right.
So it's never ended, and we've not stopped looking at this.
Yeah, and that's the case in North Carolina, too. There's no mandatory accreditation, but a lot of camps do get it to try to, reassure families who do ask the questions. But let's talk about this, because like Texas, we in Western North Carolina have beautiful, wonderful camps, and they've been around, too, for decades, if not almost 100 years in some cases. And family after family member goes, generation after generation has gone, which I think lets us all let our guards down a little bit, right? Because grandma went there. This is a place that's good for our family, when in fact parents need to ask a lot of questions.
Parents really do. And I'll tell you, with the incident that took place in Texas, and specifically the images out of Camp Mystic, let's not forget that there are many videos of Camp Mystic family members and generational campers that are coming together and showing such a beautiful community. I mean, such a rich, loving, just magical place for these girls for almost 100 years, as you point out. But the oversight has been what's concerning. And what we found in our investigation is that when we asked camps, what type of training do you do, let's just say for sexual assault, they said, oh, well, here's our brochure and here's the facility we go to. We then went to that facility and we said, does this camp in fact do your training? And they said, no, we've never even heard of them. So it got us thinking, where is the oversight? Our camps intentionally misleading, or are they just self-policing and self-regulating and sort of relying on the fact that they're certain nothing will really go wrong? These are very important questions because of the actual structure of the camp environment. Again, kids are there for days, weeks, and months on end. And no matter what the duration is of their time there, one thing is for sure: every camp cuts off a child's ability to communicate with a parent. At most, you're getting a letter from time to time. And so
Hmm.
we feel that if that's going to be the structure, and again, maybe that is a great way to have a camp be structured where the children are really immersed in the activities and not wanting to
Yeah.
call home every day, well, then there's a higher burden of safety and care. And so whether or not camps have to, what they do if there's an outcry on their facility, do they keep records of it? Do they have a duty to report that with the community? What type of training are they actually doing? Who's making sure that they have that training? What type of emergency plans do they have in place? Does everybody know about their emergency plans? How is that training done? Let's not forget, too, that a lot of these counselors are not even adults. So
Right.
when we talk about background checks on the people who take care of your children, if these counselors are in a J1 visa coming in from overseas, which is a huge thing we looked at,
Hmm.
or if they're teens, there's no way to vet them. And so there are just many questions that we've dug into. And again, not to hurt camps,
No. Mm-mm.
but to just make them as safe as they can possibly be for children. And some of these changes will require a financial commitment from the camps. But you know what? If you look at these camps, they certainly have the funds to make the investments that ensure the safety of children.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these camps are extremely expensive locations. I know in ours, we've got some very exclusive camps where kids are coming from all over the country to go to these locations. Let's talk a little bit about what I, as a mom, you as a mom, should be asking of a camp or looking for. What kind of specific answers must we get before we can really feel safe about this?
Well, you want to ask how the camp is licensed and what the licensing requirements are. You want to ask if the camp has any additional accreditations and what type. So, for example, there's the ACA and there's an entity called CAMP, which is more, it's a regional type of membership. What do those look like? We want to know what type of training the counselors get. I specifically am very interested in sexual assault training
Hmm.
and the lifeguard to swimmer ratio. So, for example, in Texas, the way the law is written, there needs to be one lifeguard for every 35 children. That's, to me, as a parent, and of course, depending on the age of my child, I may or may not feel comfortable with that ratio. Now, the law also says that another adult must be present, but is that enough given the body of water they're swimming in, given the age of the swimmers? We also want to know what the camp does should there be an outcry or an injury, what the child needs to do if they really do
Hmm.
need to call home in case of an injury, how they vet their faculty, their counselors in training. So, for example, we did a deep dive and randomly picked a series of counselors. At again, we were focused on Texas camps, but eventually we did this across the country, and many of them had recent records of DWI or DUI. Well, are they allowed to drink on the premises? For a lot of these Texas camps, they do hunting and riflery. What are the rules around gun safety storage? Because when we also did an additional deep dive, we saw photos of these counselors with maybe 10 or 12 beers stacked up and the rifle closet open behind them. So what is the oversight? What are the rules? What is the training? What does it look like? And that's, I mean, I can't imagine any parent saying, well, no, that's just too much. We don't want to put that burden on the camps. But there is this sort of obsessive love for the camp culture where people say, we don't want anything to change. And look, we don't want the fun to change, but we do want the safety to be buttoned up. Because if a child gets hurt or ultimately loses their lives, it is a loss for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. What kind of feedback are you getting, especially in light of what has happened, are you hearing from more parents who are maybe a little bit more ready to advocate for their children and for some change?
Well, yes. So when we started this, 2018, 2017, a lot of people just said, that can't be right. And make sure you're vetting your data. And we went to the when we went to the legislature, it was me and a Texas mom, pushing for change up against camp lobbyists that, there was no way we could fight them. But now, sadly, I am inundated with parents saying, I remember you talking about this years ago. What were you saying then? And what can we do now? Again, not to hurt the camps,
No.
but to
Mm-mm.
ensure that whether this was 100% an accident, or if there was a thread of some level of negligence. Girls at this camp died,
Mm.
8 years old on. We've got to look at what happened and why. And we've got to ask whatever questions necessary, whatever changes need to take place. So, whether it was an accident or there was some level of negligence, we are better prepared so this cannot happen again. And while we're doing that, let's go ahead and look at all the other things that we've drawn attention to, that we've put years of researching, to make sure that in all facets of our camps, our kids are safe.
We appreciate your insight on this, Rania. This is a big topic that I'm sure we're going to hear more about, unfortunately, as everybody tries to get ready, I guess, for the next camp season that's coming. And there are still kids going off to camp, so these are not moot points. I mean, you could ask these questions now ahead of your child going. So we appreciate that so much, so we can put some minds at ease and parents know exactly what's going on.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing, Amy.
Now to the family in Spartanburg, in this area of Spartanburg County, where District 5 schools, the entire community is worried about their elementary school assistant principal. The mother is telling me that she and her husband and daughter are trapped by the violence in Syria. I know that has to be so scary for you.
It is for me and all the family. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And you guys have been trying to stay up to date, but the communications is gone at this point?
Yes, ma'am. We lost communication with her right about 2 o'clock this morning, our time, Eastern
And so they
Standard
were
Time.
in this one city in the south of Syria that really had this sort of big uproar of violence, right? And then they've now moved away from there?
Well, actually, they were in the city of that where the unrest happened in Sweden or Al Sweda, and they have since moved south about an hour to Malah. And that's the last communication we've had with them.
And that's about 45 minutes away ish from where they
It,
were?
it is. It's about 45 minutes south of,
Okay.
toward the Jordan border. That's their goal, is to get toward any border as soon as they could.
And the problem is, I know the family, you and your son-in-law, they're in touch with the State Department, with Lindsey Graham's office, Tim Scott's office, all of those important things. But the
Yes, ma'am.
problem is there's no embassy in Syria right now because there's no relationship there.
Absolutely. That's the problem we're having right now, is we have connections and missionary connections in Jordan, all throughout Jordan, but um, the government, the missionaries, they can't do anything because they can't cross those borders.
Was this a trip to do mission work? Was this a trip to just visit with family? What was the situation?
No, ma'am. It was because, Desiree's had some time for the summer and they decided to do a family vacation so that Mohammed could visit his family
Got
and
it.
meet Desiree and baby Salma.
Sure.
And
18 months
since,
old, right? That's important.
yes, 17 months old, 17 and a half months old. And um, since the sanctions were lifted by the Trump administration, they felt it to be a safe passage. And when they got there, they had no problem getting. They flew into Amman, Jordan, and drove into Sweden, had no problem with any checkpoint. And this was the beginning of July, on the 3rd of July.
Mhm.
And they're having a marvelous time, sending pictures of great family time in the streets, having a good time. And then things changed like on a dime when I think it was Saturday, when a Druze gentleman was kidnapped and beat up, and it started a major rioting and civil war within the city of Sweden.
And we've been hearing about that on some of the network news, and it's making a lot of international news. Um,
Absolutely.
let's talk about what comes next, because right now you don't have that communication. I know you said your daughter, sister of Desiree, was able to talk to her maybe 15 minutes after you did. So like 2 this morning, which I'm talking to you in the middle of the night on Thursday or Wednesday. So this was last night, or this morning early. That she was in a village. That was really all you knew in terms of specifics, right? At this point.
That's all we know. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Um,
What's the State Department telling you guys to do? I know pray is obviously a big one.
and we have a lot of people doing that for us. I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. I don't really know the specifics because my son-in-law is taking care of the PR part of the situation for our family. So he is the one who's in contact with the State Department and Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott's office. I do know that the connections that he has been given have been quite helpful for us. Although, our hopes right now is to be able to find someone that knows someone or has a business in Syria or has people who might even live in Mahal. We do know some individuals on my daughter's side from San Diego who have family there, but they
Okay.
can't reach them either.
Yeah.
So we're praying it's just a communication outage, and we'll, hear from them as soon as we can, so we can try to get them to safety.
Well, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, in the last 5 hours or so, said he believes the fighting is going to come to an end, and they were seeming optimistic that things were going to settle down. So, I hope he's right. For your daughter's sake and for everyone's sake, for that matter, but especially for your family and your son-in-law and your sweet grandbaby.
Yes, ma'am. And I do believe the situations that we fear is because even though the the fighting dies down, you still have the rebels and the jihadists that are sitting in the outskirts of the city and on the roads blocking them for their own purposes.
Right.
And so, because there's such an unrest of government there as well,
Yeah.
the you still have that ability to fight and stop. And
Sure.
um, those are our fears. We're just trying to get, first of all, get a hold of her. Second of all, get her to a border to where maybe somebody can intercept them safely. And that's one reason why we're reaching out to you.
Of
And the
course.
other news is so that we
Get the word out.
get the word out. And at this point, some of the videos and some of the audio messages she was sending us through WhatsApp, you can hear the bombing, the artillery, and the tanks right there, right
Yeah.
in the midst of them in the city. And so they really felt as though they didn't have any other choice than to try to move south a little bit for safety.
Here's a question for you, a little bit more of a difficult one, but the State Department has been advising not to travel to Syria. So, as a mom, now having lived through this moment, what would you tell other people about paying attention to those State Department recommendations?
I would have to say, don't do it.
Yeah,
Because Mohammed is from Syria and
sure.
he's a U.S. citizen.
Yeah,
He has people there who live there and know a little bit
right.
more than we do, and so they felt that it was peaceful at the time.
And it was at the time. Yeah,
At the time,
yeah.
but it was a drastic flip of a
Change.
dime, and
Wow.
um, you know we always hear of this, happening here and there, but this is home. This is
Yeah.
Spartanburg County. This is South Carolina. And we have people of our own there. We have students who are in love with Miss Gomez at the elementary school, and people
Yes.
who are relying on them and their leadership. And, you know, they're trapped.
Yeah. Your daughter is a teacher, just in case you guys don't know. She's an assistant principal, I believe, at
Yes, ma'am.
at the Lyman Elementary School in District 5 in Spartanburg County. And you're right, that then brings in a whole school community, a whole school district. The whole west side of Spartanburg is like praying for you guys.
Yes, ma'am. And Mohammed is a supervisor at the General Electric plant in Greenville.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have got big communities that are invested in this. We're all going to be pulling for you. Please keep us posted on what develops, and we hope it's really good news really soon. I will keep you posted on the latest developments on my social media, so make sure you're following me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the platforms, TikTok too. When we come back today, we have your moment focused in on the best day spa in America that's right here in the upstate. Welcome back in as we get to your moment. And today, it is all about the owner of an upstate spa. It is a day spa, and it was just voted by USA Today as the best day spa in the country. Karen Sobocinski is joining us to celebrate what is an amazing accomplishment. I mean, this is not a spa that's been around a long time. You guys have just gotten going, and you're the best.
We like that. We like to work hard and come out of the gate strong. So here we are. We're very excited. Thank you so much.
Were you kind of blown away?
Well, I was, yes. In fact, the first time I got the email, I thought it was spam, and I deleted it.
Yeah.
And then the second time I got it, I was like, maybe I should ask someone who knows if this is real. And so we were very excited. So apparently we had a secret shopper come in that we didn't know about who must have been a USA Today voter or nominator for the award. So we found out, so didn't know it was coming, didn't know it had happened, and was very surprised, obviously, to get the email, but so excited. And thank you to all who voted for us, because it is a Reader's Choice Award. So we just were very thrilled and surprised.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you've created. You are underneath the building right next to the Weston Poinsettia, if you need a frame of reference, but you are underneath the bookstore that everybody loves downtown.
Yes, we're right underneath M. Judson. It's kind of a Harry Potter entrance. We're kind of hard to find. You can get to us in the bookstore. Yeah, it's so fun. You can come down kind of this grand staircase from M. Judson. And I'll try to flip the camera around and show you.
It's beautiful.
Or you can come down through our front doors underneath kind of the main outdoor staircase of M. Judson. So we're down here hiding, waiting to be discovered.
And peaceful, right? You've created this really special place. I got to do a tour when you first opened. It was so neat.
Yes, you were one of our first ones in. I remember.
Yes, it was really cool. And it's just, you've done it so well. You've put so much thought and intention into everything you've done. And you named it the Altar Spa. So talk about what you've tried to create.
Oh, well, thank you. So altars have always given me peace when I'm traveling. I go into old churches and light a candle. And they just give me peace. And so for some reason, it just always was in my mind. If I ever open a spa, it'll be called the Altar. And then I happened to find a 300-year-old French altar here locally in Greenville from an estate sale. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. The altar was sending me signs. And so we named it the Altar. And the altar is in our lounge, that 300-year-old piece. And so we always invite guests to go in there. It's in the old vault of the building, which is super cool. So the idea is that you go in there for a second and find your peace, whatever that is, and to, say your prayers.
Take a moment. Yeah, take a moment.
Just take a moment for yourself to settle yourself before you go into service. So that's a nice little nod to the actual altar. But we just really wanted to create a sanctuary kind of hidden under the bustling downtown Greenville.
And it is. It's right there in the center of everything.
Yes. And then the other thing we really wanted to emphasize is really trying to find the best skincare available on a holistic level. So we don't do any injections or anything like that here, but we do have a very holistic approach to skincare. So we have sought out the best in the world in skincare. It's behind me. I don't know if you can see me, but
Yes.
see it. It's called Biologique Research from Paris, and we have Is Clinical, which is always a fan favorite, and Augustinus Bader from Germany. And so we really love our brands and feel like we have something for everyone to maintain actual skincare, because we need to, as your second largest organ, skin. We
Yes.
really like for people to take care of their skin, regardless of what they do at other places, which is totally fine with us. And, we all
Sure.
do our things in different places, but we really just want to be the sanctuary where you come. We didn't want it to feel clinical. We wanted it to feel, like you were really escaping to something sacred.
Thanks for watching this week, a jam-packed show, and I'll see you next week.